Guys, Andrea here from the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, officially inviting you to our Celebrate May Day social and program being held on Friday, May 1st at Villa Arco right here in Milwaukee at 804 West Greenfield Avenue, starting at 6 p.m. Join the Freedom Road for food and refreshments while we discuss international solidarity of the working class and our strategy for revolution. You're not going to want to miss out on this. Make sure you mark your calendars for May Day, and I'll see you all there. Solidarity.
May 1st, on May Day, across the country, we are saying no business as usual. No work, no school, no shopping. We need to match the depth of the organizing that we've seen here in Minnesota with the breadth of the organizing we're seeing all over the world for No Kings 3. So what does that mean? Let's get specific. I want everybody here to put this on your calendar. The next major national action of this movement is not just going to be another protest. It is a tactical escalation. An escalation. It is an economic show of force inspired by Minnesota's own Day of Truth and Action. We all saw this. Thousands of teachers and nurses, community leaders, faith leaders showing up in sub-zero temperatures, showing this state that they were not going to put up with business as usual while a secret police goon squad was murdering Americans in the streets. We need to do that nationally, y'all. We need to do that all over the country. So on May 1st, on May Day, across the country, we are saying no business as usual. No work, no school, no shopping. We're going to show up and say we're putting workers over billionaires and kings. Minnesota, we cannot thank you enough for the courage you've displayed, for the instruction you have given. We are going to build on that courage, on that sacrifice, on that dedication, on that organizing. We are going to demonstrate that regular people are the single greatest threat to fascism in this country. It's up to all of us to walk that path. So say it with me as we heard from Rob.
And I'm a teacher in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm also a proud member of our union, MTI, in the Madison branch of Socialist Alternative. On April 21st, union reps from nearly every school in the district voted overwhelmingly to join the nationwide call for no work, no school, no shopping on May 1st. In addition to teachers joining that movement, there's going to be citywide walkouts of our high school students, shutting down 3 major streets across the city. And we are taking inspiration from our fellow educators in North Carolina, where, like Wisconsin, striking is illegal. But North Carolina, the union NCAE is busing in educators from across the state to join their rally at the Capitol. In Madison, this is going to be the most widespread and organized action since the Battle of Wisconsin in Act 10. And for this movement, after months of organizing in our schools, the pressure from below forced the district to cancel classes on May 1st here as well. And in Wisconsin, we are demanding our state to protect our immigrant workers, students, and families from fear of ICE, in addition to fully funding our public schools. May Day 2026 has the potential to be the strongest possible rebuke so far to Trump's anti-immigrant warmongering agenda because of the actual disruption to profits and halting business as usual. From work stoppages and shutting down major streets across Madison, I'm excited that this city, the teachers and the workers are going to be a part of this historic nationwide day of action. In addition to the Madison Teachers Union being a part of this, though, more teachers' unions should take up this call to join the day of action, in addition to other unions as well, in heavy battalion industries like logistics and transportation too. And it's not too late to start organizing your workplace. Reach out to Socialist Alternative if you have questions or need help getting started, but I hope to see you out there on May Day.
The First Wisconsin School District announced that it's going to shut its doors on Friday, May 1st in recognition of May Day, the May Day Strong national protest. According to organizers, the point of this May Day protest is a day of no work, no school, no business, no shopping. Organizers call it a day of disruption. It is a general strike against President Trump, his administration, and capitalism. According to the Madison School District website, 70% of staff signatures supported in a participation in a day without immigrants as part of showing solidarity with the May Day Strong National Day of Action. The demands of the teachers and school staff that are striking are to get ICE out of Wisconsin and nationally to abolish ICE. Also, citizenship for all, completely open borders, and a more just and fair economy, aka communism. Toolkits are provided for teachers to share with students who should join them on the streets and protesting instead of being in their classroom learning.
Looks good.
I think it's quieted down a little bit. Corey, I'm so glad that you could join me today because there's a lot going on. This has been a crazy week. Every time I think it's going to slow down a little bit, something happens. And on Tuesday night, there was a huge announcement. There was a press conference with the Department of Justice and the FBI where it was announced that SPLC was indicted by a federal grand jury with 11 counts of fraud and all sorts of things. I was not surprised. I know you were not surprised. A lot of people apparently were surprised. Before we start to talk about May Day, what are your thoughts about the announcement? SPLC, I know you were on their hate map along with us.
I think you guys were on
2023.
I think you guys were on the hate map. You guys made it official. Mine, I was in an email blast or something. I'm still on their website on their hate watch as a far-right commentator, listed alongside Tim Pool and Jordan Peterson and a bunch of others as well. At the time, I said this was a badge of honor. If you're catching flack, you're over the target. I think we were on the right course from the beginning. Now we're finding out with the federal indictment with these 11 charges from the grand jury that they were basically selling something that they were funding. They were basically saying, we're here to combat white supremacy and the KKK. And then lo and behold, we find out that they're funding through shell companies, the KKK. You're using donor money to fan the flames of division themselves. It's totally bonkers. I knew they were crazy. I didn't know they were actually funding their supposed opposition. It's big news. And then I also did some digging after I saw that come out this week, found that the Southern Poverty Law Center has funneled at least hundreds of thousands of dollars to the National Education Association, some money also to Randy Weingarten's American Federation of Teachers. Now, why in the world is the SPLC funneling money to the major teachers unions in the United States? I haven't dug in deep enough to see that yet, but I did also find out that they co-founded an organization alongside the teachers union called Public Funds Public Schools. And, you know, that's an anti-school choice organization. And that's why I ended up on their hate watch. Maybe that's why you guys were all on their hate map as well, because we're supporters of parental rights in education. The teachers unions are not, and they've locked arms with the Southern Poverty Law Center, who's deep trouble this week. And I'm interested to see how these May Day protests unfold next week, but I did just receive an email from the Chicago Teachers Union. They're basically ground zero for stepping on rakes and really making a fool of themselves. They haven't removed me from their email list yet. I don't know why they haven't done that yet, but I got their curriculum and exposed them on X yesterday, and it is a real doozy.
It's crazy. I do have to say I was also on their March Madness. Every year they had a March Sadness, and I unfortunately never won. I was never in the top bracket, but I was in the running for the biggest grifter. I was honored to be alongside Jennifer Say. Beat me out.
That's good company. So you're on the right
we
list.
Can laugh or we'll cry, because the things we have been talking about in some other podcasts, what they put me through and many other parents is shocking. It's appalling, and I definitely want justice. So I'm looking forward to learning more about these indictments, and I appreciate the fact that the Trump administration, the Department of Justice, the FBI, that they are continuing to investigate this absolutely fraudulent group, the Southern Poverty SPLC, because what they've done where they couldn't find this white supremacy. They
Created
made
it out
it.
of thin air.
They invented
Yeah,
it.
it's crazy. Yeah, so
And
I'm glad there's going to be some accountability
me
as
too.
well.
Now, I'm not surprised. I do see my not surprised face that the SPLC is connected with the teachers unions, with Randy Weingarten, with Becky Pringle. Not surprised at all. But I bet there are a lot of people that would be surprised to hear this. And that's why it's great. We need to get this information out of our own echo chamber and into the mainstream so that parents can understand why their kids are struggling with reading, why the proficiency rates are low. It's because these unions are completely focused on politics, on power, on taking down President Trump. They are not focused on educating our kids.
Yeah, and I got this that even shocked me yesterday from the Chicago Teachers Union. I thought it was going to be locked behind a password protected sheet. If they were smart, they would do that. But I got in with my personal email address, and they're circulating this curriculum to teachers, certainly in Chicago, but they're probably pushing it out further as well. But they're indoctrinating kids by having these slideshows calling President Trump a fascist. They have a slide that says, "What is fascism?" And they create all these bullet points of things that Trump has done. They're trying to create parallels and label our duly elected president of the United States as a fascist. It goes back to the NEA's resolutions from last year, where they passed one in Portland, Oregon, to spend tons of money to label President Trump as a fascist. They misspelled the word fascism that time in their resolution. They didn't this time. I was actually pretty surprised they were able to get the spelling right this time. But they, it's like guiding questions in one of them. I'm just reading it from my phone. It says, what lines have been crossed by President Trump? What can or should be done to stop him? So they're mobilizing the troops. They're trying to get kids at a young age brainwashed to not like conservatives, certainly not like President Trump. And in another slide, they actually compared slavery to abolishing the police, ICE, and prison. So they're trying to make equivalences here and saying that, well, if you support abolishing slavery because that's really bad, we also must then support abolishing the police. I thought they were done with this rhetoric of defunding the police, but they're even going further with the union saying we shouldn't have police at all. We shouldn't have prisons at all. People should just be able to run the streets, break crimes, commit crimes, break the law, and hurt people. And I thought that was nuts. And they took it a step further, Scarlett. They also had a slide where they're instructing teachers and students to go and call their senators, to go lobby the legislature to tell them to not pass a bill to fund the Department of Homeland Security. And they also pushed them to call the legislators to abolish ICE at the same time. And so they're not just having the adults do this. That would be bad enough for the teachers to be politicized, but they're trickling it down all the way to the kids. And we see this with this May Day protest that is planned on May 1st, which is next Friday. Of course, they chose May 1st. This is a widely known socialist communist day every year. And so, of course, they coordinated that same day as May 1st. They called for no school, no work, and no shopping. Of course, they wanted every reason not to work. But their ultimate agreement with the school district was that they would go to school and work for a little bit. But for the second half of the day, they'd have a civic day of action with the students where they go to the Capitol and lobby lawmakers. I think this is actually worse. I mean, it was bad, having an excuse to not go to show up to work and taxpayers having to pay for it. But their kind of resolute agreement with the district was to say, no, you still have to work. We're still going to have schools open. But in the second half of the day, you get to go take the kids and use them as lobbyists to go tell lawmakers that they want more taxpayer money. It's just absolutely ludicrous. I think that's even worse, that they're using kids as political pawns in their game to extort more cash from taxpayers who they're already spending $30,000 per kid per year in Chicago public schools. There's 80 public schools there that have not a single child proficient in math. So it's not like getting more money from the taxpayer is going to fix anything. In Stacey Davis Gates's own words, she's the head of the CTU out there. She sends her own kid to a private school. She called school choice racist for everybody else because, of course, she's such a hypocrite. But she was just caught in an interview with local news. I guess she thought it was going to be a friendly interview. It actually wasn't. He was pointing out, the interviewer on the news, that your brand's becoming toxic. Your favorability rating has tanked. It's in the negatives for the first time in history. And most of the people you endorsed in the primaries a few weeks ago, CTU, you guys lost in the elections too, even on the Democrat side in a deep blue city like Chicago. And she said, oh no, we're not here to be popular. He called her out later saying that you guys are a political entity. She tried to say that they weren't, but he pushed back and said 80% of your funding goes towards political activities. And her knee-jerk response was to say, okay, yeah, we're political, but we're doing it for good reason. The reason that we're political is so that we could have Black women and so that Black women can be employed and not need a husband. What? I mean, that has nothing to do with improving student outcomes. It's to create jobs, okay, and then it's to create jobs for one race and one gender, and to try to apart families too. You're trying to send this message that you exist as a union and engage in political activity so that women don't have to have husbands. I mean, shouldn't you be encouraging the nuclear family instead of trying to rip it apart? And it's wild, these things, you down these rabbit holes, but most people don't. They think that the teachers union is supposed to be there to represent teachers. They don't even do that well. The teachers aren't seeing the money. It goes towards the administrators and their political causes. So people need to fight back and say, you know what, maybe I'll pull my kid out of school and not have them go lobby at the Capitol. And maybe I'll fight for school choice so that money doesn't continue flowing into the Democrat campaign coffers through the unions. They're basically just a money laundering operation for far left causes.
It's crazy. It sounds to me like, from what I saw you put on X and what you're telling me, the May Day protest is just this terrible stew of the BLM protest, the ICE Out protest, the No Kings protest, all rolled into one. And they're spoon feeding these to young children, to young minds that don't have the ability to resist these ideas. They are compelled to go to school. They're compelled to sit there, and they're compelled to listen to this absolute propaganda without any,
no recourse.
Parents, they're not consenting. It's ridiculous. What I find very peculiar about the May Day protest, and actually very scary, is unlike the other protest movements I've mentioned, May Day Strong is centered on education and K through 12 students. They want to disrupt, on Friday, May 1st, disrupt everything. And that means they want to shut down schools. They want to shut down daycares. I've sat through training where they say, we want to shut down daycares, schools, no work, no shopping, no schools, no business. But they're really heavily focused on, and that's because the NEA, other teachers unions, they are front and center in this movement. And I find it despicable, and that our kids are being used as political pawns, and shocked that there's an encouragement of children to leave the classroom and to go run out into the streets. In Chicago, that's not only a bad idea, it's very dangerous. Mm-hmm. And I am very concerned that parents are unaware that this is happening, or they think that their child isn't going to participate, that they'll stay in class. But do you know, have you told the school that absolutely your child is not allowed to leave? I think there's a lot, and parents deserve answers. But the fact that children are being specifically targeted, this matters, because classrooms should become the staging grounds for political activism.
That's right. And the problem is, I mean, this is worse than the No Kings protest, because that's mostly adults going into the streets on a weekend. This is during a school day, and you're dealing with young minds who, you're right, they don't consent. They don't really have a choice in the matter. And I'd say that the government school system, because of this political theater, is unconstitutional if you don't have the ability to vote with your feet somewhere else, because we do have compulsory education laws. You're forced to go there, particularly if you're low income and you don't have any way out of that system. And if you want to get a good grade, you basically know that you have to regurgitate the talking points from these far left activist teachers. And so it goes against founding fathers envisioned people having freedom of speech. And I'd say this is a form of compelled government speech, is a First Amendment violation. And it would be great if the Supreme Court would weigh in on this, especially because it's gone so far off the deep end in these deep blue cities, where what if you're a conservative kid in a low income family and you're stuck in this scenario? I mean, you might not be a conservative kid much longer, right? And that's the whole point. Unions have infiltrated the government school system to push their politics and to move our country towards socialism. Why do you think they chose May 1st? It's a communist holiday. And that's why they're leaning into this so hard. I also saw another slide. They're including curriculum not just for K through 12, but pre-K as well. They have a specific section for pre-K through second grade, 4-year-olds through 8-year-olds. They have these LGBTQIA plus books. I mean, they just keep adding all letters. And one of them is about a boy who thinks he's a mermaid, and they kind of have a curriculum going along with that, and to encourage this kind of behavior, these pre-Ks. And then another one, they end their slideshow with like, here's some other forms of resistance. Show a picture of a student out there with a protest sign. So of course the teachers unions are kids going out and doing these walkouts and protests. It says that they should boycott Target and ICE and Amazon and Home Depot, Microsoft, AT&T. So Randy Weingarten's union a few weeks ago passed a resolution to boycott Target because they were insufficiently anti-ICE. Now you have it in their formal curriculum materials for teachers and kids alike to go out and do these protests as well. I guess the kids aren't spending as much money as the teachers, if they even have any of their, but the kids are going home probably telling their parents, we can't go to Target today, Mom. My teacher told me that Target, wants to send everybody back to their home countries and that they're evil people. And so brainwashing doesn't stop with it, bubbles back up to the parents in some cases, who again are just trying to focus on work throughout the day. Maybe they're not political. Maybe they don't think about these things, and they hear, oh, well, the teacher is a trusted source. Maybe it's true that, we can't shop at Target anymore. Saw in the Virginia redistricting election, which is a total farce. That's a total, that gerrymandering, that the yes vote, it said that it was to restore in Virginia elections. Of course, the yes vote's going to win. That's totally rigged in one direction. It needs to be struck down in the Virginia court. But there was a Newsmax host, her name is Kelly Sadler, who wrote an article in the Washington Times where she said that her twin sons in 2 different civics classes at a middle school.
I read that.
Crazy. And so they came home and basically said, teacher told us, in both separate teachers, 2 different ones on the same day, we need to vote again in favor of the gerrymandering for fairness, even though it takes a state that's roughly 50-50 Democrat Republican, and they rigged it to be 10-1 Democrat to Republican. 91% of this now, if this goes through and isn't stopped in court, will go to Democrats as far as their representation in Congress. It's totally crazy. But they're weaponizing the kids, not just to brainwash the kids, but also to use the kids to control the minds of the parents too, which it's just so many layers to this. It's insanity, and it needs to stop. And Congress needs to revoke the NEA's federal charter. We need to stop the teachers unions. But parents need to wake up too. You can't rely on what the kids are being told by the teachers. You need to wake up, do your research yourself. And I know it's a tough thing to do, but try to homeschool, try to pull your kids out, because before it's you want to do it before it's too late, because all of a sudden you're going to get hit in the face and say, where did this happen? Why did my child turn into a social justice warrior? Even in conservative households where you think that, you're doing a good job, and you probably are. It's hard to fight back against 7 hours a day for 13 years of these kids' lives. Yes. And by multiple people in that building who are seen as trusted adults, you might be surprised in a few years, and I just trying to tell you, you don't want to get there. You don't want to have to undo all the brainwashing. Let's stop it from the start before it gets too late.
It's very difficult to undo that level of brainwashing. You have to have constant conversations with your kids, ask them what's happening, especially like in Virginia, there's a hot button issue. Make sure that you're just checking in, like, hey, are your teachers talking about what's going on in the classroom? And when you find something out, you have to take care of it right away. I did some research after looking at the materials that you posted today, looking into the ties between the NEA and this coalition group. And so I found a legal firm that gives advice to school districts. So this is completely nonpartisan. And this legal group warned that the coalition of activists and labor groups calling for this nationwide general strike, that's how they look, a nationwide general strike, no school, no shopping, no business, no work. They are urging that to take that purely political walkouts are likely unprotected, because these are purely political walkouts. Purely political walkouts. These are unprotected.
Purely political workouts. That's only conservatives in the gym. So that's it's only one side.
And legal group cited is that they have schools, quote, in the crosshairs. So even this legal group recognized that entire May 1st event is focused on our kids, on schools, and they call it a structure test event.
Yeah, we're going to do it and we'll see. Nothing's going to happen.
Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And what you said is completely correct. This is political speech. It's also forcing people to be involved in the strike, because if they shut down daycares and schools, parents are going to have to call into work and say, I can't come in. They're being forced to strike, even if they don't want to. And they were even calling for nurses to call in sick. I was shocked to hear that, considering that I thought that these were the caring, compassionate folks. I don't think it's very caring and compassionate to ask nurses and healthcare professionals to go march in the streets and abandon their patients.
Yep. Abandoning patients, abandoning young children, and putting basically out to dry. I mean, they have to figure this out on the fly, right? And yeah, if their kids, that was kind of the deal. You're paying taxes for the public school system to get childcare services and some education on the side, hopefully, not too much indoctrination. And then all of a sudden, oh no, actually, the kid's going to go lobby at the. And if you don't like it, well then too bad, or you're going to have to call out of work. And yeah, there's basically no choice here. It's things happen at the last minute. And by the way, there's a lot of states for teachers. They're still going to do it. And as we've seen in other years, it's usually just like a slap, if anything. Don't do it again next time. And then they keep doing it. It's like need stronger accountability mechanisms for a long. School choice is the best one we have, because if you figure out that you're in a school system where they keep engaging in these political protests, well, I'll just take that money and go somewhere that does not engage in these political activities, and that gives me certainty that I'm going to have a place to send my child while I go to work. And so these other measures from the top, and that we can fight them in court later. For the time being, if you're that parent that's stuck, there's typically no accountability if you're left out to dry.
So Corey, two things in closing. Do you think that this could backfire? Do you think this is massive overreach, that they're overplaying their hand? And what is your call to action for parents?
I think it is backfiring already. And you get the Chicago Teachers Union's favorability rate is going down the toilet. They're at net negative 26% favorability. That's about as bad as it can get. 52% of Chicago voters said that they now have an unfavorable view of the CTU. Only 26% say a favorable view. And that's in deep blue Chicago. They lost most of their races that they endorsed in. And so the brand of the teachers union is going to continue going down the gutter and becoming more and more toxic, because we have social media now. We have people who can shine a spotlight on these problems, and parents are waking up, even though the schools are open after COVID school closures happened, and families kind of had that big surge. I think because we have alternative forms of social media and Twitter or X and Facebook, and that stuff's not getting, taken down, we can continue to shine. And at the end of the day, though, you can't just be disgruntled with the union. You can't just answer a poll and say, I don't like them anymore. That hurts their political power, yes. At the end of the day, you got to make your voices heard at the ballot box. You can't just sit home and say, oh, look, we have the president in charge. Everything's fine and dandy now. A lot of the unions aren't listening to the executive orders banning DEI, for example. They're doing whatever they want behind closed doors, continuing to indoctrinate your kids. And so eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. You cannot just check a box because we won the presidency. You have to continue fighting for your kids, continue talking to them, and continue telling your lawmakers that we haven't gone far enough with parental rights. We have to continue to move the ball forward. And just because you pass a ban on, you still have to continue to watch what's happening and to hold people accountable. And so your job as a parent is the most important one in the world. And that your kids are depending on you. And if they don't depend on you, they're going to look for other people like their teachers who might be pushing politics onto them. And so be involved with your child's education, be involved with their life, and you won't regret it. What you will regret is if you your eyes, put the blinders on, and make pretend that the government's doing a good job.
100%. Thank you so much for coming on to talk about this. This is a really important issue. This is a nationwide call to protest. I'm going to be spending a lot of time posting just like you. There are plenty of other cities like Baltimore, Raleigh, North Carolina, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, all over the country, especially where there is a stronghold, blue states where there's a powerful union presence. This call to protest, it's been put out. They've been planning this for a year. And over the last 4 months, they have had trainings about 2 to 3 times a week. There are over 500 far left activist organizations that are working with unions in this May Day strong protest. I think it's a sleeper issue, and I don't want a lot of parents to be surprised. On Friday, May 1st, my call to action is to call your school to make sure that they know that you expect school to be open, and that under no circumstances is your child allowed to leave the school without your permission, and they are not allowed to engage in these political activities in the classroom. So do some digging. If it means a surprise visit to your school, do it, especially if you have middle school or high schoolers. Make a surprise visit. Check out what the hallways look like, and ask a lot of questions, because like Corey said, if you allow your kids to be indoctrinated, it is very difficult to undo. So just stop it before it starts. Your kids will have values. Make sure that they have your values, not the values of these crazy teachers union leaders. Just sit through one of the trainings that me and Corey sit through. Oh my Lord, you do not want these people in the having any sort of say over the mind. So
thank you, Scarlett, for having me. Keep tooting the horn, and hopefully more parents wake up and fight back.
Yep. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Scarlett.
Emily, and I'm a teacher in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm also a proud member of our union, MTI, in the Madison branch of Socialist Alternative. On April 21st, union reps from nearly every school in the district voted overwhelmingly to join the nationwide call for no work, no school, no shopping on May 1st. In addition to teachers joining that movement, there's going to be citywide walkouts of our high school students, shutting down 3 major streets across the city. And we are taking inspiration from our fellow educators in North Carolina, where, like Wisconsin, striking is illegal. But North Carolina, the union NCAE is busing in educators from across the state to join their rally at the Capitol. In Madison, this is going to be the most widespread and organized action since the Battle of Wisconsin and Act 10. And for this movement, after months of organizing in our schools, the pressure from below forced the district to cancel classes on May 1st here as well. And in Wisconsin, we are demanding our state to protect our immigrant workers, students, and families from fear of ICE, in addition to fully funding our public schools. May Day 2026 has the potential to be the strongest possible rebuke so far to Trump's anti-immigrant warmongering agenda because of the actual disruption to profits and halting business as usual. From work stoppages and shutting down major streets across Madison, I'm excited that this city, the teachers and the workers are going to be a part of this historic nationwide day of action. In addition to the Madison Teachers Union being a part of this, though, more teachers unions should take up this call to join the day of action, in addition to other unions as well, in heavy battalion industries like logistics and transportation too. And it's not too late to start organizing your workplace. Reach out to Socialist Alternative if you have questions or need help getting started, but I hope to see you out there on May Day.
The First Wisconsin School District announced that it's going to shut its doors on Friday, May 1st in recognition of May Day, the May Day Strong national protest. According to organizers, the point of this May Day protest is a day of no work, no school, no business, no shopping. Organizers call it a day of disruption. It is a general strike against President Trump, his administration, and capitalism. According to the Madison School District website, 70% of staff signatures supported in a participation in a day without immigrants as part of showing solidarity with the May Day Strong National Day of Action. The demands of the teachers and school staff that are striking are to get ICE out of Wisconsin and nationally to abolish ICE. Also, citizenship for all, completely open borders, and a more just and fair economy, aka communism. Toolkits are provided for teachers to share with students who should join them on the streets and protesting instead of being in their classroom learning.